I sent erotic photos to a friend, my husband printed them, and left forever. One moment, you're sending innocent photos to a friend, trusting them with a part of yourself. The next, your husband discovers them, prints them, and walks away, leaving you in the wake of a decision you never thought would unravel everything. Now you're left wondering, how did it all go so wrong? I never thought sending those photos would lead to this moment of regret. It feels ridiculous to admit now, but at the moment it was all just exciting Innocent, I told myself, or at least harmless. It's strange how easily you can convince yourself of anything when desire affects your judgment. How amazing how your mind can create excuses from your desires, even when you know you're stepping into something risky. My name is Tamika. I'm 27, working as a marketing coordinator at a growing tech company. I spend most of my days brainstorming campaigns, coordinating with different teams. My life had always felt like a routine of deadlines and meetings, nothing out of the ordinary. But everything changed when I met Cedric. It happened at a work conference in downtown Atlanta, one of those events where people parade around with forced smiles and firm handshakes, speaking in jargon and promising to keep in touch. But Cedric was different. His laughter had a way of brightening a room. He made me feel seen, understood, something I hadn't even realized I was missing. We exchanged phone numbers for work reasons. At the time, I told myself it was only for collaborations and networking. We were two professionals connecting, nothing more. But if I'm honest, I was drawn to him from the start. There was an attraction there, quiet and underlying. As time passed, our conversations began to change. We would talk late at night, share stories, and get to know each other. At first, it was all about work and our projects, but slowly we started opening up about our personal lives. He would compliment me, and his words would linger, affecting me in a way that felt strange. I couldn't help but notice the way he said things, his tone and inflection. It was as if his words were touching my heart, making me feel seen and understood. Darnell and I were married for almost 8 years. I thought our marriage was stable and comfortable, but after a while I started to feel trapped. We didn't talk as much as we used to, and the nights felt colder. The love we once shared started to disappear. Darnell wasn't a bad person. He was a hard worker and a good nurse at Grady Memorial Hospital. His job was demanding, and he spent long hours at the hospital. I admired him for his dedication, but it wasn't enough to fix the problems in our marriage. We grew apart, and I didn't know how to bridge the gap between us. We didn't fight or argue. We just drifted away from each other. I felt lonely, even when we were together. I realized that I had settled into a routine, and our marriage had become predictable and stale. I longed for something more, but I didn't know what that was or how to get it. We lived together, but it felt like we were strangers. We didn't really connect or show love to each other. We just went through the motions. I felt like I wasn't seen or heard. It scared me. I thought I still loved Darnell, but I wasn't sure. Love wasn't enough to make the loneliness go away. I told myself that all marriages have tough times, but deep down, I wondered if we were too far apart to fix things. That's when I met Cedric. He changed things for me. We started talking about work and joking around. He would make flirtatious comments and I would feel happy and wanted. I looked forward to our conversations. At first, it was harmless. We were just friends. But then our texts became more personal. We would talk about our lives and share stories. I felt a connection with him that I hadn't felt with Darnell in a long time. I told myself flirting was harmless, just a game. I thought it was just words on a screen, not real, but it made me feel good, like I was wanted. My husband barely noticed me, but Cedric's messages made me feel special. At first, I didn't take it seriously, but his words were addictive. They made me feel better when I was down. When he called me beautiful, I pretended it didn't matter. But I saved the message and read it over and over. One evening, my husband went to bed early. He was tired from work. I sat alone in the living room looking at my phone. Cedric and I had been texting for hours. He was charming and made me feel drawn to him. Then he sent a message. "Show me something beautiful." It was like a challenge. He expected me to do something, and I wanted to. I wanted to feel loved. It wasn't planned. I wasn't dressed up or trying to look good for anyone. I was just wearing an old t-shirt and shorts, but I felt a sudden urge to be noticed and loved. I picked up my phone and took a photo of myself. I posed in a way that hinted at something more. I arched my back, looked over my shoulder, and smiled. I felt excited and a little naughty. I sent the photo and my heart started racing. I couldn't wait to hear back from him. When he replied, he said nice things about me. He complimented me and made me feel good. I told myself it was just a photo, a harmless game between two adults, a way to escape my boring life. But deep down, I knew I was playing with fire. I was inviting trouble into my life with every flirtatious message and photo. I felt guilty, but I couldn't stop. I craved attention and validation. I wanted to feel desired. Cedric made me feel good about myself. He reminded me that I was still attractive and worthy of admiration. He became important to me, a way to feel alive again. I looked over my shoulder whenever my phone buzzed. I felt ashamed and didn't want anyone to know. I got anxious and was constantly checking my messages, deleting chats, and hiding them. But I knew I was playing with danger. Even though I enjoyed the flirtation, I knew it could hurt me. Secrets can get out, no matter how hard you try to keep them hidden. I was searching for happiness, but it would come with a price. I didn't realize how big that price would be. Later, everything fell apart. I remember the day it happened. It started like any other day. I was making coffee, our phones were buzzing, and there was an uncomfortable silence between Darnell and me. I got out of the shower, wrapped myself in a towel, and walked into the empty apartment. Darnell had already left for work. His absence was normal now, so I barely even noticed it. We didn't really live together anymore. We just existed in the same space, each lost in our own thoughts. I took my phone into the bathroom with me and scrolled through messages from Cedric while listening to the news on the TV in the kitchen. Cedric's messages were playful and teasing. He complimented me easily, making me feel good. I responded in the same way, enjoying the feeling for a few moments. But I knew I couldn't keep that up for long. I had to put on a different face, the face of a devoted wife. So I put my phone away and started getting ready for the day, trying to shake off the feelings that Cedric's messages had stirred up inside me. As I got dressed and made breakfast, I couldn't help but think about Cedric and our conversation. I felt a little guilty, knowing that I was hiding this from Darnell, but I pushed those feelings aside and tried to focus on my day. Now the phone rang, breaking the silence. I didn't recognize the number, so I ignored it, but the silence that followed felt strange. I tried to convince myself it was nothing important, just a wrong number or a sales call, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. When I went into the kitchen, I saw something on the table. A manila envelope was lying there, open. Some papers were sticking out. I approached it slowly, like I was afraid of getting hurt. I didn't know what was inside, but I had a bad feeling. My heart started beating faster as I looked at the envelope. I felt like something was wrong, but I didn't know what. There were photos on the table. They were printed out and scattered all over. They were pictures of me, posing in ways that looked wrong now. My face was in these photos, and it was like looking at a stranger. I felt a chill in my chest as I realized what I was seeing. These photos were private, just between me and Cedric. Seeing them out in the open, on my dining table, felt like someone had invaded my private life. It felt wrong, but I knew I was the one who had done something wrong. I had broken the trust in my marriage. I started to panic and couldn't breathe easily. I quickly picked up the photos, my hands shaking as I put them back in the envelope. But it was too late. The photos had already been seen. Darnell had seen them. He had touched them and left them on the table for me to find. It was like he was saying, "I know what you've been doing." The photos were proof, spread out on the table for me to see. Darnell had left them there, like broken pieces of our promise to each other. I looked around the room, expecting Darnell to appear and confront me, but I was alone. The house was quiet. I realized that Darnell had been quietly angry for a while. He had left the house without making a scene. My phone vibrated, breaking my thoughts. It was a text from Cedric. He was being casual and flirtatious, but he had no idea what was happening. He didn't know that his messages had been found and had caused trouble. I couldn't text Cedric back. I was thinking about Darnell and how angry and hurt he must be. I could almost hear him asking me questions I didn't have answers to. I wanted to call him and apologize. I wanted to explain and make excuses, but every time I tried to dial his number, my fingers wouldn't move. I was too scared. I didn't know how to explain what I did, even to myself. How could I tell Darnell why I betrayed him? I didn't understand it myself. The rest of the day was a blur. I was worried and felt sick to my stomach. I walked around the house thinking about what might happen. But as the hours went by, Darnell's silence was worse than anything he could have said. Darnell liked to take action and be in control, but now he was silent. It felt like he was punishing me on purpose. By night, I was very tired. My guilt overwhelmed me. I didn't sleep well. I had bad dreams about Darnell being angry and disappointed. I also dreamed about Cedric's messages on my phone, reminding me of my mistakes. The next morning, my phone was dead in my hand. I got out of bed feeling confused, tired, and scared. Darnell didn't come home. There was no message, no call, nothing. The house felt empty and quiet. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. I left many messages, apologizing and asking him to come back. I was scared and desperate, but Darnell didn't call back. Days went by, and I barely left the house. I didn't know what to do or where he was. I was too afraid to ask his friends or coworkers if they had seen him. I was ashamed of what had happened between us. Every message from Cedric went unanswered. His words, once intoxicating, now felt poisonous. The excitement that had drawn me to him was gone, replaced by the cold, merciless grip of regret. I hid the envelope in a drawer, hoping that would make everything better. But it didn't. I still felt bad about what I did. The more I tried to forget, the worse I felt. I felt guilty, ashamed, and scared of losing everything important to me. I couldn't eat or sleep. I looked different with sad and empty eyes. It was only a matter of time before Darnell returned. Whether he came back with forgiveness or fury, I didn't know. But the waiting was its own kind of torment. Because deep down, I knew that whatever came next would be the consequence of my own actions. And there was no escaping the truth of what I had done. It was on the 5th day that Darnell returned. I heard Darnell's car coming before I saw it. The sound of the engine got louder and broke the silence in the house. I had been half asleep, but now I was awake. I held on to the couch, my nails digging into the fabric. I felt scared and unsure of what would happen next. I stood up, but my legs felt weak. I tried to think of what to say to Darnell. I wanted to apologize and explain, but I knew it wouldn't be enough. I had hurt him, and I didn't know how to fix it. The door opened and Darnell came in. He moved calmly, but it made me feel nervous. His eyes, which were usually expressive and lively, now looked cold and distant. He looked at me, but it wasn't the same. His gaze was sharp, like he was sizing me up. It felt like he saw me as a stranger in his own home. The air between us felt heavy. There were things we needed to say, but neither of us spoke. "Darnell," I managed, my voice a cracked whisper. He didn't respond. Instead, he dropped his keys on the table with a harsh clatter that made me flinch. I took a step forward, but the gap between us felt too wide. Darnell's silence was harsh. It hurt more than if he had yelled or been angry. He was calm and controlled, and that was his way of hurting me. I wanted him to say something, anything. I wanted him to yell at me, to call me names. I felt like I deserved it. If he yelled, at least he would be talking to me. At least he would be acknowledging our relationship. Darnell was calm, even when hurt. He stood up straight, with tight shoulders and clenched fists. I asked him where he had been. He stared at me, then walked past me. His shoulder touched mine, but it felt impersonal. I watched him walk through the house, taking his time. It was like he was getting used to the house again. I wanted to talk to him, to explain and apologize, but I just followed him. He went into the bedroom and looked at the bed. I knew what he was thinking. He was looking for proof that I had been with Cedric in our bed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. For a moment, I thought he was about to confront me with some damning evidence I hadn't even considered. But instead, he slid the device onto the dresser and spoke for the first time since he walked through the door. He told me that I should have thought about the consequences before acting. His words hurt me. I felt ashamed and stupid. I realized I had been selfish. Then Darnell said, "It's too late for that." His voice was cold. Darnell's cold voice shocked me. I had thought about this conversation many times, but it was worse than I imagined. He asked me why, in a low, sharp voice. I tried to explain, but it sounded silly. I felt like I had made a mistake for a stupid reason. How could I tell him that I felt neglected and sought attention from someone else? It sounded shallow, especially after all our years together. I told Darnell how lonely I felt and how I wanted to feel good about myself. It was hard to say, but I told him anyway. Darnell didn't look surprised, but what he said hurt me. He said sending pictures to someone else wasn't going to make me feel less lonely. And he was right. That made me feel even worse. I realized I had made a big mistake. I tried to explain myself, saying I didn't mean for things to go so far. But Darnell didn't back down. He said I didn't just mess up. I chose to do what I did. His words were hard to hear because they were true. I felt bad about what I did and wondered if I could make things right. Darnell looked at me, and his expression told me I had made a big mistake. He didn't say much, but what he said was clear. It was like he had made up his mind, and there was no going back. He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the hall. I followed him, trying to think of something to say to change his mind, but he was already packing his things. When Darnell finally left, I knew he wouldn't be back soon. The door closed quietly behind him. I felt like something was gone forever. I sat on the floor and cried. I felt sad and guilty. I realized that Darnell leaving was just the start of my punishment. After some days, he returned again. But this time, things have gone really bad. Our home was quiet. Darnell and I barely spoke. I didn't know how to fix what I broke. Darnell was hardly home. I only heard him in the mornings when he got ready for work, and at night when he came back. But he never stayed long. He would pack some things, say he needed space, and leave again. I was left alone, feeling isolated. Darnell didn't yell or accuse me. He just didn't spend time with me. That was my punishment. I had no one to blame but myself. I kept thinking about what I did wrong. Sending photos, flirting, and enjoying Cedric's attention. It seemed so unimportant now compared to the pain I caused. I called Cedric after Darnell left, hoping he could help me understand or feel better. But Cedric sounded distant and annoyed, like I was bothering him. I realized that our connection wasn't real. It was just a superficial flirtation with no substance. My mistake had cost me my marriage and showed me the emptiness of what I was looking for. Now, I'm left with the consequences of my actions. I couldn't sleep or eat. The whole house felt dirty because of my guilt. The bedroom was the worst. The bed reminded me of everything I ruined. I spent most nights on the couch, trying to escape the truth of my choices. A month passed before Darnell returned for the final time. I heard the key in the lock and straightened, my heartbeat a frantic thud against my ribs. It was late, past midnight. I had begun to believe he would never come back at all, but there he was. His face was indifferent. I called him by his name, but words dried up as I saw the suitcase in his hand. He didn't look at me as he walked to the bedroom. His steps were purposeful and seemed final. I followed him. He started packing quietly, folding his clothes neatly and putting them into the suitcase like it was a routine. There was no anger, no frustration, just the steady, resigned acceptance of a man who had made his decision long ago. Darnell finally spoke, breaking the silence. He said he tried to save our relationship, but now he feels nothing for me. His words hurt me deeply. I tried to hold back tears and find the right words to say, but how could I disagree with what he said? It was true. I apologized. I admitted I hurt him and ruined our relationship. I tried to explain that my mistakes came from my own insecurities, not because of Cedric. Darnell paused, folding a shirt. He said it didn't matter why I did what I did. What mattered was that I betrayed him, and he can't forget the pain. I wanted to touch him, to hold him, to make things better, but I knew I couldn't. I asked what would happen next, speaking quietly. Darnell looked at me calmly, but without kindness. He said he was leaving and starting the divorce process. The word divorce sounded final. I felt like my world was falling apart. My legs felt weak. I begged Darnell, but he said our relationship was over. He said I chose someone else over him. His words were simple, but they hurt. They were true. I had hurt him by choosing someone else. My actions broke the bond between us. Darnell kept packing. I wanted to ask him to stay and forgive me. I wanted him to believe I could make things right. But I knew it was pointless. Darnell closed the suitcase and lifted it off the bed. His hand shook a little, showing how he really felt. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I loved you, more than anything. That's why this hurts so much." He walked past me without saying another word. I followed him to the door, trying not to fall apart. He stopped at the door and looked at me one last time. "Goodbye, Tamika," he said. Then Darnell was gone. I stood by the door, hoping he would come back, but he didn't. I had pushed him away and I couldn't fix it. The house felt empty and cold. Darnell not being there hurt, and it wouldn't go away. It reminded me of what I had lost. The photos I sent to Cedric didn't mean anything. They cost me everything important. I sat on the floor, crying loudly in the empty house. I had lost everything, and I couldn't change it. All I could do was live with what I had done. The divorce papers arrived a week later. I signed them without reading the details. There was no point. Darnell had already made his decision, and I had no right to argue. The legal process moved quickly, as if eager to erase the last traces of our marriage. I quit my job. The thought of seeing Cedric at the office made me sick. I could not face the whispers or the pitying looks from coworkers. Instead, I packed my things and left without saying goodbye to anyone. I moved into a small apartment across town. The walls were bare, the space unfamiliar. It felt like starting over, but not in a good way. This was not a fresh start. It was a retreat, a place to hide from the mess I had created. Days went by, but they all felt the same. I slept a lot and didn't eat much. My phone was quiet. Friends stopped calling me because I didn't answer their messages. I thought I deserved to be alone. Sometimes I drove past Grady Memorial Hospital where Darnell worked. I never went inside, just sat in the parking lot watching the doors, wondering if he was there, wondering if he ever thought about me. But I always left before catching a glimpse of him,